Hello, I'm Ratna and welcome to my online tutorial. From my home to yours, you can now learn about the wonders of watercolor and how to start, improve, or simply learn and better your skills at your own convenience. There will be a series of workshops catering to each stage of learning for beginners, intermediate, or advanced. We will be learning different subjects to paint as well as learning the techniques and materials used that will help in improving your paintings. Thank you once again for joining this online workshop, and let's get started. We're going to learn about paper knowledge, which is very crucial actually to your paintings. Now there's three types of paper, right? The first one and the cheapest one is the 100% cellulose cold pressed. Now what is it actually? It is made up of recycled pulps and materials. Hence, when you buy something that is recycled, of course they've got to put a little bit of chemicals in there to bind the fibers together. So something like this, right? It says here cellulose, cold pressed, medium surface, 100% cellulose. So when you see this, and it's one of the cheapest actually, it comes in 100, 200 and 300 grams. It is actually for loose floral illustrations, loose floral illustrations or anything that does not require multiple layering. It also dries pretty slow, and it actually sits on the surface. Once we do our exercise, you will know what I mean by it sits on the surface, right? So the second one and the most common one that you can see or you get in the art shop or art supplies is the cold pressed paper, right? Don't worry about the surface, medium or graphene, because different brands label their work differently, right? But what you need to pay attention to is one, it's cold press, two, 100% cotton. And that's the thing that you need to look for each time you would like to buy a set of papers to paint. Now this is the most cheapest that I can find, cotton paper, that is 100% cotton in Malaysia. So it's about less than 15 ringgit per 10 sheets of A4. I don't like to buy the pad. It comes in a pad as well, a gum pad where the edges are gummed together so that you keep it together. However, the texture is, I find it a little bit oily. If there's any explanation I can find, it's oily. So I try not to use the pad. I prefer the loose sheets, and this is one of the most forgiving beginner paper, because if it costs only a ringgit and 50 cents, what's that? 15 divided by 4, it's less than a quarter US dollars. So this is the cheapest for you to start with. Highly recommended. So the next one we have here is another, a better one, or the brand that people use are the Arches, right? Arches, of course, I mean, they've been around for, I don't know, 100 years, more than that, I'm not sure. But it's, although it says graphene, which is fine grain, and over here it says medium surface, see the difference? Graphene, fine surface, medium surface, but the surface is rougher on this one than this. So like I said just now, as I'm proving it to you, that this doesn't really matter, because that's how each brand label their work, right? So don't worry about the graphene. What you need to worry about, let's look at it. 100% cotton, 300 grams, and how many sheets, of course, right? So this is Arches, one of the best, and it takes how many layers you want it to take. It will take it. And I find that after several layers, although it's very, very heavily, if you can see it, yeah, there you can see it, it's highly textured, right? But as soon as you put on more than 2 layers, those ridges that you see, those textures, they simply just smoothen out on its own. So that's how the watercolor papers are created or invented. They are made to take several layers. How it works is that the layer, the ridges that you see, okay, how many? The ridges is here, right? Or the surface is here, and then you put on your mixture of paint and water. What it does is actually it strains the water, or oxidization or drying, then just leave the pigment on top. So the mixture of pigment is very important to your painting style. I'm not going to say what style is right, what style is wrong. What my style is and how I have learned is that the mixture has to be correct in order for it to strain properly. Yeah, so that's how watercolor paper works. Another one is, of course, one of my favorites over here. That's my cat's paw. Yes, so grand satin hot press. Again, we look for 100% cotton, 300 grams or 140 pounds. We use metric here in Asia, so 300 grams it is, right? So now look at it. It's smooth. It doesn't have any surface. If you can see, no surface. No ridges whatsoever. It is smooth. Right. Having said that, it does not mean that it won't allow you to play or to add other colors. But simple rule with hot press, it does not like water too much. And if you use too much water, the paper might start to peel. Peel means that you'll see little dots on the surface. We can have a sample later. So these dots actually meaning that the paper is being overworked or too much water, it cannot take it. So hot press does not like water. Cold press loves water, right? And in order for you to make it move towards a certain way, or if you say you want the petal to go this way or the colors to go this way, then you've got to add water to make it go, create a pathway for it. So where there's water, there's pathway, and the mixture and the color will move towards the water. Watercolor 101. All right, and that's graphene, satin, green satin. So what satin does is actually for botanical artists or mostly flora and fauna subjects. It creates a luminous shine, not necessarily shine, but it creates that effect. You know, the matrixing, it creates that kind of effect on your painting, right? So this is I think double the price of cold press. So that's why I only suggest for people with you try hot press only after you've gone through a series of cold press because of the price, and it takes a lot of practice to control your water mixture in your brush. There's another one. It's not too bad, the price, not as expensive as the satin, but this is one of my favorites actually. Again, we look at 100% cotton, right? Everything is acid free actually. Almost all is acid free. Let me see about the yeah, even the cellulose, it says acid free, but it means acid free is that it is archival, meaning the paint will not what's the word when the paint will your artwork will not tarnish into something yellow or something like that. So that's what it means by acid free. Yeah. and Saunders and Waterford. One of my favorite, I actually started my expensive branded ones with Saunders and Waterford. They have in Coldpressed, they have in Hotpressed. So this one, look at over here, if it's HP, it's Hotpressed, and 300 grams. It's the same, that it's somewhat smooth, but not as smooth as the satin, because you can see some kind of ridges there if you look at it properly. I don't know if you can see. I think you can, right? So smooth, also does not like water. Okay, so let's understand. That's all that the papers, the types of papers available for watercolor. However, there are also papers like mixed media, meaning you can use any kind of medium, watercolor, acrylic, not oil of course, but watercolor, acrylic, pen, inks, sometimes gouache on that paper. However, I do not recommend that for big projects for watercolor, because it does repel a little bit of pain, I find, some of it, the ones that I have tried. So it's not advisable for beginners who wants to learn watercolor, because watercolor can be quite challenging. Yeah. So this is on Arto. It is cold pressed, because you can see the ridges, right? The ridges is there. Let me put on my glasses and see if I can see it, right? And it can take a few layers. It can take probably 5 layers, if you are very mindful of the water usage, right? But it can also take some detail. So good papers allows you to layer on without getting it peeled. However, if you start to rub, right, create that when it's still wet, that is going to soften the ridges, and then it's going to start to peel. So try not to do it too much. Try to know why you're doing it. If it's only to erase or lift your colors, then you can. And then there's this one. This is on Arches. That's on Arto. So you can see it takes on a lot of layers, and I tell you, there's a lot of layers to build first. So it can take however much you want to put, but as you can see, like I told you, it flattens out or smoothens out. This is the sides. Oops, this is the side, so you can see the ridges. But once it's painted on, right, it smooths out. It smooths out the texture. This is Arches. This is the magical thing about Arches, and I guess that's why it's expensive. Now this is on, I think it's on Saunders and Waterford. Yes, Saunders, Waterford, Hotpressed. You can see the shine that you can create, right? Yes, this is Saunders. So see the ridges, it's still there. However, over here, it's flattened out, and you can put in little details. So this is why it requires only a little bit of water, not too much. You only need a lot of water, well, not a lot, just to damp the area for the initial layer, the base layer, and after that you probably use lesser still as you go along. So this is hot pressed paper, and of course, what is paper, hot pressed paper without botanicals? So this is why you need this is why you use hot pressed paper. It is for details, little details that you can see over here. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, little details that you can see over here, little incisions, not incisions, but little markings here and there, just a little bit to make the painting more realistic, especially for botanical studies. This is the paper that they normally use, or vellum. We're not going to get into vellum, okay? Because one, it's not really available in Malaysia. Two, it is very, very expensive. And three, it is actually made from, well, the original vellum, not tracing paper. Some people call tracing paper like this vellum as well, but they are actually made of animal skin. I think cow skin, or the fat or something like that, somewhere I read. So it's very, very expensive. So those are the types of paintings that you can use for your each types of paper. So hot press, cold press, cheaper cold press. Okay, so here comes the fun part. So you take out your tracing paper, or if you can draw it freehand, by all means. You know, this is just to help you get the proportion right, or you know, this makes things easier and faster. Right, so how you're going to do it how you're going to use this is, if get yourself a tracing paper, right, any grammage, it doesn't matter, any weight, right, and once you have printed, you can actually print, if you have a printer, print it out, print the file out on the tracing paper, using tracing paper, sorry, and then after that you can see what you can read properly by Ratna or anything. Then you turn it upside down, right, and do not use your painting paper as the backing, but use some rough sheet of paper and use a pencil, any pencil, not 2B. Try to use either B or HB to shade the back. Yeah, so you do this following the lines. Why I use HB is that so that it won't smudge my paper, watercolor paper, because I, for one, don't like to see the complete painting. I don't like to see the the carbon from the pencil. There you go. So what you do is turn it around. Now you take your paper. Now some people did not know this, and I, for one, did not know this when I started out painting, but there are two sides of the paper. One side that works, you know, what I explained, and to strain and to dry and leave the pigment on the paper. However, and it spreads slowly. However, there's another side. This is the wrong side, I call it. I usually mark X so that X is not mark the spot. X is the wrong side. So to know which side you're on, look at the ridges. All right, if there are ridges, that is the correct side of paper. This is where you paint on, and this is where it's going to strain and it's going to spread your color. This side, there are no ridges, so it's going to work like hot press. It's not going to spread, it's just going to stay there, and you're wondering, why am I not talented? Because it's on the wrong side. Okay, so once you have shaded the back, turn it around. All right, I'm gonna save paper, you know, and I know that this is an A5 size, so I'm just gonna do it like that. Okay, right side up, meaning right side facing you, meaning you can read this art by Ratna properly instead of upside down. And take a piece of washi tape. I'm sure we all have washi tape. If you don't, any masking tape will do, but just a little bit. There you go. Let's tape it up, because we're only human, and while we're tracing, somebody might be yelling at the back calling for us. So it is safer to tape, so that if you have to answer your phone, answer somebody, or you know, a pencil fell, you can, this is safe. It's not moving about anywhere. Okay, so what you do is you trace it out, follow the lines. So I'm very regimental in how I work. So I will start on the left side first, or anywhere away from me. So just follow this, the lines, the red lines. They're just guides, by the way. Now check. This is also good to have it taped because you can check if it's too dark or too light. If it's not too dark, then press it on a little bit more. I try not to press so much. You see, as long as you can see it, it doesn't have to be a dark line like this. No, right? Double checking if I have everything. I missed out this one. Okay. Yep. Oh, one more line. Yay! We're done. So take this off. Now what you have to do is repeat this process on the other papers. One cold press cotton and one hot press cotton. Be right back. Right, so we're ready to paint. So this is the cellulose, 100% cellulose color, paper. So we're gonna do a wet on wet method. It just says here, use wet on wet method to spread paint for the first layer. And while paper is still damp, add midtones and dark tones and pull towards the, with light strokes towards the highlights. Highlight means the lightest color possible there. Water first. Clean water, of course. Usually I don't touch the pencil marks because it's just going to spread further. Remember, where there's water, there's a pathway for the paint to move. Then don't try to minimize wetting the area. Right, so I put mostly all over. I'm looking at this paper, this as my guide. Right, bit there, rinse off, and then this mixture I add a little bit of the dark green. To create the values. I always mix colors, initial colors with subsequent colors. A little bit too dark there, so I'm just going to add initial color. So it's not really moving, is it? So this is cellulose paper, right? And if you put water, you can see it, it's actually moving away, it's pushing the pigment that we just laid on, right? So let's just bring it down as the stem. Okay, so that's it. So this is cellulose paper. So what we're going to test it with now is to lift it while it is still damp. So with that, whatever brush that you have, make sure that it's a damp, well, not wet, damp brush, yeah. And then just use the brush. We're trying to create veins. Nothing's happening so much. All right, that's twice. Damp, not wet. Of course, this color is not that dark, so you can't see much. After each swipe of that color, or lifting the brushing, wipe off your brush because the paint will be on the brush, right? So now what you do is repeat this on each other types of paper. So this is cellulose. Let's just wait for it to dry first completely. Okay, it's all right. So too much water, this is what happens. Okay. Following this, right? You see, when you're doing it while it is still damp with cold pressed paper, the lifting becomes a little bit softer. It does not create harsh lines. I will show you the difference with these two, the cellulose and cold press. Okay, there, that's one, and that's two. Then you can see the difference. Okay, so with cellulose, you can see that it's lifted the colors, right? But it also leaves a nasty, some hard edges there. This is while it's still damp. And then it's quite apparent. The markings are quite apparent. Whereas with this one, let's wait for it to dry thoroughly. But you can see that when you lift it while it is still damp, the effect, the contrast of the lifting is a little bit softer. So if you want to make bokeh effect or soft effect, blurry effect, this is the way to go with cold press. Yeah, so while it is still damp, you lift and then a softer effect will come out. So this is hot press paper, and we're gonna do the cellulose style here. So this is what I mean by repeating it and making sure that you are testing out the same style on different papers and see how it lifts and how it doesn't lift, when it lifts, when it's best to lift the colors or to add the paint. Lift it while it's still wet. Okay, nothing's happening, right? Nothing's happening. So with this, you can see that it is not really lifting when it is wet, right? It just spreads more. Why? Because it's cotton. So lifting of the color on hot press while it's still damp is not going to work. Yeah, even if I take that, this is drying already, only then you can lift. So you know that the cellulose style will not work on hot press. So where's cellulose style? At least cellulose, you can see it. You can see when you lift it when it's wet, and it lifts automatically. But okay, this is dry, and I'm gonna try and show you to lift when it has dried. On cellulose, no problems, right? Here you go. Oops, if it's too light, it's not gonna go. So there you go on cellulose. Let's try on cold press, shall we? Cold press while it is still, this is Arto, mind you, yeah? Nothing's moving. Twice. Nothing's moving. 3 times. Only then you can see the moving or the lifting of the color, and that too you have to dab it to make sure that you can see it. So the conclusion is cellulose style, if you are lifting a lot of colors to make veins or lifting your mistakes, this is okay. This is easiest to lift. But on cold press, basically you can't lift it. But this is Arto, mind you. So once it's dry pretty thoroughly, and you can't really, once you do this too often, the paper will start to peel, right? So this one has a tough time after it's dried. And hot press, it's still cold, but we will try this way. It's still damp, it won't lift at all. So we'll try here. Alright, and we'll have a dab. See, it won't lift too. So we will just see how it lifts. If it lifts, probably it's too light for you to see the lifting. Yeah, but it did lift a bit, but not too much while it is still damp. So if you're looking for a softer effect, yes, this will work. Okay, so let's now try method number 2, which is wet on cold press. We're going to repeat whatever that we have done just now on cold press paper, 100% cotton cold press paper. Now for cold press, you can only lift it while it is drying, not when it is damp. So you've got to be careful, especially with Arto. Some other cold pressed paper you can lift when it is dry or has dried, but for Arto, it's best to do it when it is still damp, not wet but damp. Right now, if you can see that it is shiny, I don't know if you can see it, I try to make you see if it's shiny, then it is not ready yet. Only when it's drying, not so shiny anymore. So I'm waiting for it. So I'm just gonna try. Yeah, then it works. Then you take your damp brush and try to smoothen this out, or if you want it to go a little bit further down as per reference photo, just damp the area and keep on pulling the paint until the color or the paint spreads or touches the damp area. Yeah, so this is how you use cold press. Making sure that these lines are visible or clearer. Just going to put it there. Again, you can only do this, add on the layer with cold press after the previous layer has dried, thoroughly dried, or else you're going to have lots of but the water is just gonna push all the pigments underneath, and you're gonna be left with everything so watery and diluted. Then you're gonna wonder what is wrong with my painting. A little bit while it is still damp. I want it a little bit more darker. Watercolor dries up 1 to 2 tones lighter than what you put on initially. So having said that, thick is not also good. So you've got to make sure you swatch first. If it's too heavy, too much on your brush, just give it a nice dab. Right? So again, it will not move. You can see this, the strokes are now quite hard. So use your damp brush to soften it lightly. Add a little bit more here. Why is this dark? Because it is underneath this leaf, so it has to be dark. Right? There we go. And over here, it gradually goes darker, right? So the paper is still damp there, so I don't need to do much of coaxing the paint towards the light area. There we go. Gently does it. Don't ever push back while it's still wet. Just go forward, not back, forward. Okay, so this is hot press. Doing it again in the cold press style. So it's not moving anymore. Can you see that? It's not moving. It's already dry. So I'm pushing it so that it moves, but it won't. So clearly, this one does not spread. It doesn't allow you time to work, to repair your mistakes or to soften your strokes. So this is hot press with cold press style. It is not going to work, right? So let's do hot press style on hot press paper. So this is what you do. Press. You can do an initial layer. The base layer is normally wet on wet. This is because you spread it faster instead of having strokes visible on the sheet of paper, right? Doesn't matter if it's light, it doesn't matter what green you have, so long as this is to practice and to get to know the paper. Okay, trying to work fast here because this is how you should work with hot press. It has to be fast, precise. You need to know where you're going. Okay, there we go. Oops, maybe over here. It's okay. Right, so I can see some shine over here. So I'm going to lift it with a damp brush. This is the lifting. But you can see that the lift is quite soft. And over here, some people use a square brush or a rectangle brush. We can if you want to, but this is not the best of rectangle brush, and it's not even seeable, it's synthetic, so nothing's happening there. Don't think so. And using this while it's still damp, you can see if it's not light, you can see that it's soft. Okay, even if you make a mistake, right, in doing the lines, you can always repair it later. Here we go. So that's cold press, a hot press, initial layer. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is hot press on hot press paper, right? Here we go. How does it look? All right. So how I normally do it is that I see where the lines or the highlights are, and then where do I need to darken the colors. So I'm just going to do a wet on wet. But my colors are all here. I'm just going to make this a little bit more prominent and push up. Bear in mind that there is some shine there. Too much. That's my cat. It's good. And over here. So what's best for, okay, how it's supposed to work actually for, or what method you should use for hot press is a lot of dry brushing, right? So I'm just gonna do it over here. This is when you need, or you don't use a lot of water, right? Still too much paint. You can see that my brush is not shiny at all. It is nothing. There's nothing there to show that it's wet. It's not shiny. It's just remnants. If you want it to spread, I'll go softly with the dam brush, right? So the method that it wants to use, or preferred method for hot press, is actually dry brushing, because it doesn't take water too kindly to water, not too much water, just damp will do. Okay, smooth this out. Another vein perhaps. So bear in mind that today's workshop is not about how to paint. It's learning about the paper that you're using. Yeah, you can see it's fraying. There's nothing much left on it. So only then, even this is fraying, but I can still smooth things out with it. Right? Excuse my cat. So, last one, not too much. Okay, smooth it out a bit without losing this shine over here, shine over there. You know, you really got to control, you got to know where you're going with hot press. You can control how fine you want the lines to be. That's why it doesn't like too kindly to being damp or wet like cellulose. It moves, you know, especially if it's cotton or snow. I haven't seen cellulose hot press, but it doesn't really need water for it to spread. Just a little bit of dampness will do. Now, by doing this, right, you can actually see the curves. You can see that this petal is folding in and it's going outwards. So this is the work of hot press paper, that it allows you to add on bit by bit without jeopardizing the whole paper or the whole artwork. Just making it darker here. Oops. And smooth it out with my damp brush. My damp brush is also dried. Just a bit. Okay. Okay. And we go on to the other side now. Because this is light and this is dark, and this is dark again, or mid-tones actually, so you need to be quite careful when you're placing your values. Okay, so that you don't see anything there, but you do see it over here. It's best to follow the direction of the subject or where it's going. Okay, finished all my paint there. I usually load it and I'll take it off. So you got to follow through your work. If it's light, I mean, you can't see any veins there. You can't suddenly go all green there and it'll look like a zebra. This way. Okay, that's holding my breath there, and a little bit darker this side, just to show that it's curving, because it's never flat, isn't it? I mean, it's you've got to, this is where you've got to be observant with hot press, or any paintings for that matter, because your values, no matter how rough your strokes are, what I notice about painting, any kind of painting, not just watercolor, right, that your values, once your tonal values are correct, your paintings will be beautiful, regardless of the strokes. Yeah? It's a bit dark here. Oops, no more water, just one dot will do. Too dark. When it's too dark, I'll just take this, spread it out. It will not create any more lines because the water on this brush is a little bit, just a wee bit dampness there. Let's just clean that up, shall we? Okay. Alright, that looks okay, although I overworked it. Okay, there's a line there. I think that's the thing with realism artist, painter, whatever you want to call me, that when you see you've noticed something and you have not put it in, that's when you feel, oh, it's incomplete. Right? Just a wee bit, not too much. There we go, soften it up. Soften it up a bit. And where else do I see it? Over here. Okay, that gives continuity from here to here, although over here you can't see much because of the shine that you're trying to portray or reflect. Probably. Yes, sometimes you have to go that way. I see hard lines there. I don't quite like it. This is how you erase your mistakes on any paper. Actually, and the difference is how much water does it need to lift. Cellulose, hot press style. Too much water. So if you want to go back and darken it, you can't really, because it's just repelling whatever you have. If you can't see it, then I'm going to do it a little bit darker. It's actually lifting, not laying, but it's lifting. Can you see this? It becomes lighter and lighter. you know, so it doesn't really work well with hot press paper using cold press style. Look at this one. This is cold press 100% cotton, right? I can still add on if I want to, and it will allow me to do so, but with no more. This is when you're on your third, fourth and subsequent layers, and I want it to be darker. Oops, a fur there and darker here. But what it does, it's actually allowing you to layer on, not a problem, right? And here we go, just to make things sharper. Some papers will allow you to use, or dry brushing is the safest way, of course, because it doesn't contain a lot of water. So some papers allow you to do so using hot press style on cold press paper. However, only after subsequent layers and only after the initial or the layer previously has dried thoroughly, then you can use, but not for cellulose. Cellulose style is not going to work cold press and hot press style is not going to work on cellulose paper. As we can see over here, it just mixes everything together. This is what this workshop is all about, to show you what paper suits what style and how it works. Yeah, so see, I've added a little bit more, and I can still add over here if I want to, but note that it's all your strokes are visible. No matter how you try to soften it, it will be visible. Some papers, this is R2 of course, some cotton paper will allow you to make repairs or amends or lifts or lighten things up, but it's more expensive than this one, of course. And I'm talking about Arches, Saunders, Canson, some Canson. They used to have Moulin du Roi, but it's one of my favorites, but they don't have it anymore, right? So this is the subject that you have learned today. So here are the results. So this is 100% cellulose, 200 grams. So we tried the cellulose style, which is just water, wet on wet, and then after that mix your colors as soon as possible. These are 2 layers, and by that also you can see that it's buckling already because there's a lot of water twice, right? So the initial layer was this, and then we lift it while it is still damp to produce all these fine veins, or to lift your mistakes should you mix a wrong color. So that's how you lift it, right? And you have to mix it while the paper is wet, not even damp. It has to be wet, meaning full water, and mix your other values, dark values, midtones and highlights while it is still wet. Okay, so now using using cellulose techniques, cold press techniques on cellulose, this is what's going to happen. You can see that the strokes are very, very apparent, and you can't pull it, you can't really layer on so much. Now this is a 3rd layer, but you can see on the 2nd and 3rd, it's not really accepting anymore. In fact, it's just lifting. These are lifting. Yeah, these are lifting marks, and you can't even spread it or diffuse it to soften the strokes. So cold press technique on cellulose, no go, no go. And then finally, the hot press technique on cellulose will not work as well, because you can see it will not smoothen things out. It will actually lift as you put the 3rd layer on. It actually lifts and nothing stays on the paper. So therefore, only this technique, which is wet on wet, mix it all together, the dark and the light and the midtones together. The mixtures have to be prepared in order for you to mix the colors seamlessly, as well as this one to lift after it has dried. After it has dried. Show you again, this has thoroughly dried. So it proves my point that it doesn't stay on the paper. 2 or 3 layers is not going to make it on cellulose. Yeah, okay, so that's cellulose. Cold press. Okay, doing 1 to 2 layers of cellulose style on cold pressed paper. This is Arto 300 grams, 100% cotton. Now you can see that while it is wet and I lift it, it works, you know, a little bit. But however, after painting it and it has dried thoroughly and I try to lift as best I can, and this is quite wet actually, the brush, nothing much is going to budge from it. In fact, nothing at all. Very, very fine. If you want to lighten the area, probably you can, but you have a risk of overworking the paper or the area. Yeah. Now, on cold press, with cold press technique, which is layer by layer by layer and waiting for it to dry thoroughly before putting another layer on, but re-wetting the paper, making it damp so that there's pathway for the paint to move or for the paint to spread, works best for cold press, of course, obviously, right? But you can see the strokes are not as harsh as the cellulose paper. It is softer, it spreads quite evenly and more naturally, of course. This one I add on after my second and third layer, so you can have somewhat of a defined, realistic or 3D looking painting using cold press cotton. You know, I'm gonna it's definitely a hot press and a cold press tongue twisting thing throughout the video. Okay, so you can still do it. You put definition to it. In fact, I can still put definition to the painting or to this piece, trying to make the veins look a little bit popping out, you know, like very, very fine. Let's zoom a bit for you to see, right? And over here, even though it's dark, I can still see it here and here. Usually underneath the vein, somewhat of a light shadow there. Oops, too much. Overzealous there. And here we go. There. You can still put definition to it, and it still allows you after 3, 4, 5 layers. I would say a maximum of 6 layers for Arto, but for the good brands, you can go as much as you want. It's not going to be a problem. Now, hot press style on cold press paper. It's not going to be that fantastic. I lifted it while it was still wet or damp, but I couldn't do it. It can, but very, very light. Maybe because my color is a little bit light. However, it is best to do it while it's drying, not while it is still wet. Yeah, when you're using hot press and cold press paper, right? But when I try to add on, yeah, it can still add on because I damp the area a bit to diffuse the color, or to diffuse and make it spread. It actually I lose the dryness over here. Can you see that? I lose it and then it spreads. So my veins will not be that defined. These are my veins over here. You can see it over here, but you can't see it really this side. See that? You can't see that at all using hot press style on cold press. You need to go back to it and then define the area with a little bit more dry brushing or something like that, little tweaks here and there, right? Only then you can see the veins. So you can use, but not recommended, because it's just going to fuse everything together, fuse the damp area, so that there is no specific, there's no detailing there. Everything is blurred, right? So that's cold press. So you can use cellulose style, but only for initial layer, base layer, initial base layer, first coat. All those jargons are the same, right? So yes, that's my old cat Maggie, who has perpetual flu or blocked nose. She had a bout of flu about probably 6 years ago and was in the hospital for 1 month. And she's recovered, but she still has the sniffles on the cold day. Okay, sidetrack. All right, cold press style on hot press paper. Not going to work so well, because hot press does not like too much water. So when it doesn't like too much water, it dries up pretty instantly. So you can see it's not going to move so much. It's just, if you don't damp the area evenly, this is what's going to happen. It's just going to stop there, and then you're going to be left with something you're not sure of what it is and how to repair it. So let's see if we can cold press method on hot press. Will it lift? I'm not sure. Well, I know, but it's because different brands act differently. It can, but very, very gently, of course. That's what it is with hot press. It's actually quite a gentle paper. It looks gentle, but it's quite hardy. That's what I mean. It's quite hardy, as in it's not going to budge so much. Yeah. So it's not really going to work well with too much water, and you can see it becomes a little bit muddy, and the spread is not really even. Okay, so when you use the correct technique or the correct style for the paper, then that's when it works best. So this is hot press on hot press style. This is what you're going to get. You can still darken it if you want to play with the values, right? What you can also do is soften everything up with a nice coat there. There you go. Soften things up. Or if you want to make it a little bit different hue, perhaps. Okay, for example, you like your colors and you see this, but it's too white, and you don't want it too white. There's a nice blue tint on it. So you can, when it's thoroughly dried, the last thing that you do is to add some different of a tint of blue there for it to change its hue from white, stark white, to a little bit of a blue hue. Okay, you can see the difference. I'm not going to do it this side, I'm going to do it this side, right? And don't forget the veins as well. Okay, so you can bring it down perhaps. Okay, so now you can see that the magic of hot press, it changes as soon as you add on something else, but this technique is called glazing. Just a little insight on techniques of watercolor. So it changes the look, it cools it down a little bit, or you can warm it up by adding yellow if you want to, but I put blue so that the contrasting highlight will not be too strong, the difference between the green and the blue, the green and the paper, eventually the paper. Right, thank you so much once again for watching and for taking up this online workshop. If you like it, give it a thumbs up and give me your comments, what you would like to learn next, although I already have my modules coming up, lining up for you. So hopefully you like this workshop and that it will help you to paint better. Right? Thank you and have a great day.